Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Work It Lady Podcast, where the goal is for all ladies to be the best versions of themselves. And if you happen to be a mom, be the best mom ever and maintain your sanity while we do it. Okay, let's get into these stories, guys. So the first one, yeah, I mean it's not that serious, but I just wanted to touch on this one a little bit because it's like, I just see this shift even with comedy now. Like I just feel like with how expensive everything is and how stressful life is these days, we can't even have like good comedy anymore. So let's talk about the Kevin Hart and Katt Williams beef. Now, I don't really know what the beef is about. I just kind of got some snippets and kind of just picked up a few points from some blogs. But I really, probably not the person to ask to know all the details of everything. There's other channels out there for that. I don't really follow like these two super closely, although I think they both are funny. If I had to choose though, I would probably say that Katt Williams is definitely funnier. Definitely funnier than Kevin Hart. That's just my opinion, but my opinion doesn't mean anything. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Um, but yeah, so I enjoy them like if they're on a show or a movie, that it has a rating that I feel comfortable viewing. But as far as their stand-ups, both of them use a lot of profanity and stuff, and guys know with me, that's just not really what I'm trying to be doing all of the time like that. So while I appreciate these two, and the comedy and all that is necessary, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt because it is what it is. So what I found out is basically Cat Williams has felt that Kevin was a huge like industry plant, that he really was not authentic, and that, maybe there were different things and backstabbings and things that were happening during in the industry. And maybe he just didn't approve of his associates. He had some kind of shady friends and things like that. Who knows? But maybe both of them do. I don't know. But Cat Williams definitely, has had some viral moments where he has been, standing up for good and, trying to say good things and all that. Probably both of them. So again, I really feel like these guys are very similar. It's just that their experiences, their delivery, and their audiences and the way they connect and like who they are is very different. But they are both comedians, and there's space for everybody. But anyway, uh what happened at the roast? So we'll fast forward to the roast, and I will touch on some other things that I did not appreciate about the roast. I did not watch the roast just because I know these things again are going to have a lot of uh words that I do not want to hear with all that heavy profanity every 2 seconds. But afterwards, this did go viral. So Cat Williams was invited to attend. Supposedly we don't know because they know that he would roast Kevin the best. Okay, because they do have that kind of beef with each other, and so uh really what happened was is he went in on him very hard, but that is the nature of these roasts. And at the end it looks like, Kevin went up and tried to kind of, bury the hatchet, so to speak, or just let bygones be bygones, and they gave hugs. Now people are saying behind the scenes that really it was still a lot going on, and that they really in real life have not made up. I mean, we'll never know. We don't ever know what these people are actually doing it. I mean, how much do we actually care? That's their business. But I thought that I would just bring out the fact of some of the other comedians that were there. One in particular, actually two, made some very um inappropriate jokes about slavery, lynchings, racial stereotypes, and even mentioned um, George Floyd. And they got a lot of backlash. And I just thought it just kind of jogged my memory to like times when I've heard people say jokes like there was someone, a celebrity, I can't remember who, but recently they were talking about someone who had a deceased family member, and I believe that that actually happened in this form as well, where someone who, had a mate who actually passed away, and one of the comedians at this roast actually brought that up and made a joke out of it. So what I was trying to get at the outset of this conversation is what I can respect about both of them, Katt Williams and Kevin Hart, is that I really never heard of them making jokes that are across the line. Like they might be like something that really makes them as a person uncomfortable, but it's never going to be like them talking on somebody who is deceased, or maybe an instance of abuse or something like that. But some of these newer comedians are really weird that they will actually try to make a joke out of somebody who unalived themselves, somebody who, was a victim of a murder, someone who was a victim of the crime. That's not funny. Like, it's disgusting. Like, it literally is not funny. And even I've heard people, just kind of not people you really know, maybe workmates or something like that, and they will make comments or almost try to make a joke sometimes out of something tragic that has happened to someone. When did we lose like our boundaries and our limits to where now even joking about somebody's family member who is deceased is actually something funny? Absolutely not. So my encouragement is, my 2 cents is, if somebody does this, call them out on it and walk away. Say, "I don't think that's funny," and walk away. Literally don't even engage with them. That's my thing now. If people are doing stuff I don't like, I immediately shut my mouth and I don't engage with them. That silence can be what it is. And if they crazy, I'm not gonna go around with a crazy person and get into an altercation and have somebody trying to do one of these. Okay, absolutely not, because people are crazy now. Everybody's capping, everybody's gonna hit you with the pow pow. Absolutely not. So I simply shut my mouth, disengage, and I do not speak to that person or acknowledge their presence when people are doing things that are across the line. But I just thought that that part of the event, was just really, really, really not good. And it just kind of reflected what's going on in society, that now people don't even know what is an appropriate joke and what is an inappropriate joke. Like, there are certain things that are across the line, like literally joking about a lynching, like that literally is just insane to me. Like, it is literally insane to me. So, anywho, kudos to Kevin and Kat for getting up there and hugging it out. Even if they didn't mean it, it was a good display of sportsmanship, if you will. And a lot of people don't even know the meaning of that word anymore. It's like people are just really weird and self-focused. They can't ever think about the bigger picture and step outside of themselves and say, "Hey, we're two guys and we have a lot of influence and a lot of people look up to us. Let's try to like give a good front, even if it is just a front for the public so that people can feel more harmonious." And, people behavior is contagious. So it might seem like something simple. Hey, what does two comedians have to do with problems in society? But when people see people publicly putting their differences aside and hugging it out and saying, "Hey, let's forgive and forget," and it's all good. People, are more inclined to do that themselves. It is contagious. So it is good that I saw them do that. Everybody saw them do that. And we just have to keep the humanity, guys. Keep the humanity and do not tell inappropriate jokes and don't cross the line. It's a lot of ways you could be funny without crossing the line. Okay. So, let's move on to this next topic. Now this was a little bit of a hee hee ha ha. Oh, smart scales, girl. Your smart scale may let you know if your husband or significant other is stepping out. So this might be something that a lot of people need to have. A lot of us need to have, because we got to stay on our toes, with these men and see what is really the tea, right? So what a smart scale will do is it will measure your body fat percentage, muscle mass, water rate, heart rate, all these things, and usually it is connected to Bluetooth, and you can actually have this information go straight to your phone on various apps, and kind of track your health and your weight loss or weight gain, all these things. So these are really good. I don't have a smart scale, but some people do have them, and I think they're good. But now what's funny about this particular case is there's a viral story that came from a woman who noticed a strange late night weigh in on her smart scale app while she was away from home. The app showed a weight of 120 pounds logged shortly after midnight, a weight that matched neither her or her husband. Since the scales synced to her phone automatically, she saw the entries remotely and became suspicious. Okay, I would have been suspicious too. Like, wait a minute, why is my smart scale going off at midnight when I'm not home? And that ain't my weight, and that ain't my husband's weight. That would literally freak me out. So, according to the story, this couple already had some trust issues because the husband had cheated before and they were supposedly trying to rebuild the relationship. The mysterious weigh ins made her suspect another woman had been at the house. The story went viral on Reddit and social media because people were shocked that a bathroom scale could accidentally expose cheating, or maybe it was deliberate. You never know. So, I hope that she, did whatever she had to do. Hopefully they were able to have, a productive conversation. I know it was not a pleasant one. I'm wishing them all the best, whoever they are. But yeah, that's a hot mess. Like, could you imagine? Like, can you imagine that? Like, finding out that way. He was probably sitting there looking real stupid when she confronted him on it, like, what had happened was, I was hungry in the middle of the night and I wasn't sure how many potatoes was in this bag. So I took it to the bathroom scale and come to find out it was 120 pounds worth of potatoes in this bag. And then what had happened was, and then I'm sure she got one of those and was like, "We are getting to the bottom of this, sir. Like, it is not going down that way." So, I found that interesting. Now, just to be on the lookout, girl, be aware that there are other things that can kind of give this similar result of exposing things that people don't want to expose. So apparently there are smart toothbrush apps. I am not familiar with that at all, but I find that very interesting. Of course, we know the Ring doorbells. Of course, we know the shared cloud photo accounts, fitness trackers, and location sharing apps. All these things do leave digital footprints, even just your cell phone in general. And you are able to kind of catch people doing things that they should not be doing. So, hopefully that helps, girl. If this is something that is helpful for you, or this is just good information for women to know, okay? Like, start looking at the location sharing app. Start looking at your Ring camera footage. Maybe sometimes it's not always going, directly alerting you. Maybe have the alerts on at all times so that if something ain't looking so hot, can you imagine if like somebody was bringing in their girlfriend or something and it was on the Ring camera and you just turned the intercom on and was like, "What are you doing here? What are y'all doing?" Like, literally, that would be so hilarious. I know it's happened. It's happened to somebody somewhere. My goodness. Moving on. So let's talk about the antivirus. I don't want this. I don't want this. Okay. So currently, the most up to date information is that this situation is being closely monitored. This, as you know, started out on this ship, the MV Hondias, and several of those passengers have, come down sick with the virus and everything. Now they are saying that don't be alarmed if some of the people who were directly on the ship and have since gone home do end up developing the virus. What they're really looking out for is to see, is there human to human transmission among people who were not on the ship. that's going to be the telltale sign to really see what's going on with this. I think it could be, anywhere from 2 weeks, maybe even up to 6 weeks before that, time, just kind of reveals if that is happening or not. So let's hope not. That would be great. Um, from my public health perspective, I have studied this in school and everything. There's a lot of protocols that sometimes just don't make any sense, but like in the long term, they do. So I know one of the things that a lot of people were talking about is like, why not just leave the ship out there? This is a good point, and I think it is one that deserves addressing because, like, that's kind of my first thought. Even though, I did study public health, um, that was kind of my first thought, but, when we look at, viruses like this, what happens is if you just leave people out there like that, um the virus, because you still have those among there that are not infected, you have a faster transmission rate sometimes because everything is contained and is in one area. So I think what the thinking behind is, and again, this is not an official statement or anything, this is just from someone who's gone through the college level coursework, um is it's a little bit better to kind of and sometimes separate the main epicenter of the outbreak. Because if you have like very virulent infections happening, and even a small group, let's say, I don't know how many people were on board, let's say 100, and all of those people get very sick. Well, now we have a more likelihood that when those people eventually go back home, it is going to be a much more virulent type of situation, much more infectious than if you kind of say, okay, we've got these ones, let's get everybody away from the epicenter of this, and let's start treating anyone who may have been infected on the ship kind of in like, whole biohazard, health type of way away from the epicenter. Sometimes that is actually more, effective than letting things kind of keep brewing on board. Because again, let's just say all of them did die out there. Okay, so now what is to say that there was 100 dead bodies out there on a boat unless you sink the ship and blow it up, that could work, but you also don't want to create anything else. You don't want a bunch of dead bodies that have passed away from the same, virus. That's kind of what the virus wants. It wants to kill. And when it gets to that point is when things can also become very, very, very dangerous. So, viruses, there's lots of different types of viruses, and they do behave differently. But I think of a virus like this with such a high kill rate, I kind of put it not as scary as like an Ebola, but I kind of put it in that same kind of category where the dead bodies are actually a really big problem. Like they're going to cause a lot of more infection and weird disease and really catastrophic things happening. So I do understand why they did it, and I hope that, if you're worried about this, can kind of give you some relief. It's not, no scenario is really ideal because, the other argument is, well, you brought them back into the population. Now it's, more likely other people can get sick. And, for the people who are quarantining at home, it's only a few of them that are doing that. And I don't think those ones had direct contact with the infected individuals. So again, very low chance there, but the other ones are being treated at the Nebraska facility. And I wanted to share with you guys some things that make that medical center in Nebraska, out in Omaha, a very good choice to handle something like this. So it's a federally funded national quarantine unit, and it is especially built for dangerous and infectious diseases. This is also where when they had that Ebola outbreak, it was very small, but the Ebola patients were treated over there. So they have a lot of advanced technology at this facility. And, we see that thankfully, even though there was a few additional infections, um, for the most part, we did not have an Ebola outbreak. So I'm pretty confident that once they're there, things are going to be pretty good. Um, they use even advanced filtration systems. There's constant testing that's going on. And these people are going to be there up to 42 days and even longer if needed. So I think that's a good thing. Um, Again, most of the people who have returned to the US are being watched in quarantine facilities, which I think is really, really good. So, yeah, I mean, some other places, other countries are just telling the people to go home and, keep themselves away from people. Uh, Self quarantine, probably is more appealing to people. But again, are you really going to be able to do that? Like, maybe you have a family that lives at home. Well, they're exposed. Maybe open the door and start talking to the delivery man, and you're not supposed to do that. Like, it's just too many variables. With people kind of quarantining at home for something of this level. But again, it's just one of those things. I hate this icky stuff. Like, it interests me so much. Obviously, you guys have heard me talk a lot about these different topics here on the podcast, and I for me to go in and actually study it, it really does interest me. But I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's important. Welcome to Work It Lady podcast, where it's time to put in the work regarding educating yourself on all areas of your health and well-being. At Work It Lady podcast, we are dedicated to empowering women to take control of their health and mental well-being. Our mission is to provide women with the knowledge, inspiration, and tools needed to transform their lives, from improving nutrition and fitness, navigating womanhood, and if you're a mom, excelling at motherhood. Step 1, like this episode. Step 2, share it with someone you love, and even the haters, they need help too. Step 3, subscribe on podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, join our mailing list to stay in the loop on classes and events. I am so happy you made it here, girl. Thank you. So we'll see what happens with the girl. We will see what happens with it. Okay. So moving on to what is next up on the docket. It just got me thinking about international travel, what all the different ones were doing. I started doing a little digging, and somehow this came up when I was searching about passports. Did y'all know that if you are seriously delinquent in child support, and that means you owe more than $2,500, you could actually have your passport revoked? That is so funny to me. Like, $2,500 is nothing, and they will straight up ground you. Like, that is literally hilarious. So then it kind of raised the question like, okay, well, what else can you get your passport revoked for? So the number one on this particular list is owing 2,500 or more in child support. That can lead to a denial or an all-out revocation until it's resolved. The next one is, of course, federal criminal issues. Your passport can be revoked or denied if you are under federal arrest warrant, convicted of certain serious federal crimes, on supervised release or parole with travel restrictions. If you have court order travel restrictions, excuse me. Let's say you're out on bail, you're involved in an ongoing criminal investigation. All of those things mean you need to stay put. Okay. Let's talk about large debt. Yes, that is something that you can also get your passport revoked for. So if you owe the IRS tax money, it has to be typically around 62,000 or more. You can actually get your passport revoked. And I'm like, okay, how often is this being done? Because like I feel like I know at least two people who probably owe more than that. Only because they shared themselves. Only because they shared themselves. And I'm like, they have not gotten their passport revoked. So maybe there's some other qualifiers there that we're just not aware of. And I would like I would feel bad if someone's passport got revoked, especially for the child support thing. But again, it's also because these people who do that, like, their flight risk. Like, if you owe a lot in child support, like, what's stopping you from just dipping out, heading over to another country and not coming back, or at least being like, okay, well, my child is 2. I'm gonna just stay out of the country till they 19, okay? And then I'll come back. Then I don't have to pay no child support. So I think it is actually a good thing. Like, looking at it surface level, I was like, wow, that seems a little harsh, but I think overall it's actually a good thing. Other reasons that you could have your passport revoked, of course, fraud, false information, impersonation of someone else, providing fake citizenship or identity claims, any fake government documents. So all y'all out there who using your kid's social security number to get stuff and all that kind of stuff, y'all better stop that. They're gonna yank your passport from you. Y'all better quit. Okay? And don't be messing up your child's credit and a little credit score and stuff. Don't do that. Um, Obviously, if you've lost citizenship, or are a national security risk, obviously we all know those. Those will be reasons that you will get your passport revoked. And the other reason that was on my mind was because, we've seen this week Spirit Airlines go out. So this is kind of our next main topic I want to talk about here. And what is funny to me, y'all ain't no good. Society is no good because everybody had jokes for Spirit Airlines. Don't go on Spirit. Them fights break out in Spirit. It's ghetto on Spirit. It's a problem on Spirit. Everything is wrong with Spirit. Everybody hated Spirit Airlines. Like, it was like a love-hate relationship. People like the cheap prices, but then come to find out, people be like, well, it ain't that cheap because you got to pay your bag and do all these other things. And we've all been there. Usually checking a bag is going to add another 100, 200, sometimes even more than that to your ticket price. So you like, okay. So they basically are very good, or were very good at breaking down the pricing and giving it to you in little bitty bits. But they basically were getting almost the same as other airlines in most cases, in my opinion, anyway. So, but yeah, y'all had jokes for Spirit. Y'all had jokes. And now all of a sudden, you guys miss Spirit Airlines. Now we miss Spirit Airlines. Y'all had jokes about, oh, you got to pay to breathe on Spirit. Viral videos about the cramped seats and the extra seat fees. Influencers all online exaggerating bad experiences. Now, I will say there were some bad experiences. Like, we've seen some of those viral videos too. Like, unless they were like actors that looked pretty real. So there were probably some crazy things going down because when a price tag is accessible to many, you also open up for a few crazy sometimes. you know um but for the most part, what people did like about Spirit Airlines was that overall they always met the safety regulations. They always were FAA, meeting all of their different requirements consistently. And so I think people kind of lost the plot with that. Like, hey, they are cheap, but somehow on the cheap, they were able to provide a pretty safe flight scenario. And I think that's all people really care about. So, you know, so now I really, it's just funny to me to now see people, this mass outcry. We need Spirit. I can't believe they went bankrupt. Oh, air travel has to be affordable for everyone, and which is all true, and I agree with. It's just funny to me to see how the switch ups happen. Like, one minute everybody's dragging them, the next minute, oh, we missed them, bring them back. Sign a petition to bring back Spirit Airlines. All of that, all of that. So, anyway, it's a shame because that did put about 17,000 people out of work abruptly. So, if you're looking for a job, it could get a little bit, more difficult in some of our local regions because all these individuals are going to be, seeking employment. But there is, I still personally feel, a good amount of in-person work. Like a lot of the major retailers are always hiring. Um, a lot of the Targets always literally look run through and empty. Um, because they never have enough people to stock shelves and do all that stuff. So while automation and AI has taken over a lot of things, we still have a lot of opportunities where if you really need something, there still are some little opportunities out there. It's not going to be paying a ton, but you may make enough just to get by. And hey, sometimes that's all, you can ask for. So, let's hope Spirit Airlines, maybe there will be another airline that will pop up, maybe some of these other airlines will drop their prices because now that Spirit went out, average airfares for domestic flights have risen 10 to 15%. So these other airlines are like, oh, hole in the market, time to hop in there, which I don't think is very nice. I think that they should have just kept it the same. If they wanted to raise it, maybe next year or something like that, but just give people time to adjust. And now people are saying that, when they're going on to book, when they go on, it's about $500 more than it used to be. Some reports are, like I said, the 10 to 15%. But then you have these influencers going online saying, hey, I, had a ticket and it was going to be this. And now today, after Spirit went out, it's $500. There's really no way for us to know which is true. Is it 10 or 15% increase, or are they really gouging the price, of extra $500 a ticket? We don't know. I don't know, but very interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, ladies, I hope you enjoyed this little update on what is going on. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.